Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the events that took place in Gaza during the previous 24 hours. We had a lot of very interesting updates. To tell the truth, we can't call these updates interesting because they're not interesting. They're like terrible, they're terrifying, and we see that sometimes on the earth in the 21st century we can find a place where there's no humanity at all. And I'm not saying just about the Palestinian terrorist flip-flop forces, but also sometimes the Israelis also cross the red line in violence and casualties among civilians when talking about the bombardments of Gaza. Let's start from the beginning and let's start discussing the numbers, events and so on. The most important updates probably is that as a result of clashes, of duels, artillery duels, bombardments and all those special operations and all those attacks from the Palestinians, the Israelis lost already not less than 1,000 people, something around 1,008 people by 4 p.m. of the local time. More than 3,500 people were wounded. So the situation is very difficult, and we understand that these are not the final numbers. We're going to get more losses among the civilians from both sides, either from the Israelis and from the Palestinians. When talking about the situation on the ground, as we can see, the situation on the northern flank of Israel has been stabilized. We got some geolocated photos of air bombings of the Lebanon positions, to be more precise, not of the Lebanon, but of course of Hezbollah positions. As a result of those strikes, the losses, we don't know the real damage that the Israelis managed to deal, but obviously all those attacks had just one purpose: to pin down the Lebanon and the Hezbollah forces and not to allow them to feel themselves comfortable and safe on this part of the front line. When talking about the central Israel, we got a lot of updates, and first and the most important is that the Israeli authorities took a decision to launch, let's say, the clearing operation in the area of the West Bank. And the sources published the photo of the storming operation, how the Israeli forces were trying to clear the building, the streets in the city by the name of Nablus, and there was like city clashes that Israelis were trying to move from one building to another. But we need to understand one important thing about this attack, about that operation. First of all, the Israelis are not ready to launch the ground operation in Gaza. You need to understand this clearly. One more time, the Israelis are not ready to launch the ground operation in Gaza. Gaza is a very small, tiny territory with a population of 2 million people. I can't even imagine the level of underground facilities, all those ruins, lots of angry people, a lot of ammo and rounds, a lot of forces that every single building, not even every single shadow in this Gaza, if the Israelis take a decision to enter the city, will be an enemy for the Israeli soldiers. And everything, small stones will start attacking the Israelis in this area. So that's why, and the most important, that Israel's authorities doesn't have time to let's say, to start this operation. They don't have time to start trainings, military exercises. So they took a very smart decision. They took a decision to launch a small, like, clearing test operations in the West Bank, where there are no clashes, no enemies, almost no enemies, just small groups of riots and so on. So it's not a very big deal, but at least the Israeli soldiers will get some experience in these operations, moving from one street to another. Of course, they also don't have much time, just maybe 1 or 2 days, because sooner or later they will be forced to start the clearing operation of Gaza. For now, the things that the Israelis try to do is to force the Palestinian forces to step back from the territory that is, we can say, the territory of Israelis. They want to force them, and according to information we have, as a result of counter-offensive operations, as a result of attacks that Israeli forces made all over the combat line, over the territory of Israel, the Palestinians were forced to step back in Gaza. There were a lot of strikes, a lot of clearing operations, a lot of forces were involved, and basically the Palestinians don't have armored vehicles, they don't have like modern technologies, they have nothing. They have just flip-flops and AK-47s, and using these flip-flop and AK-47s, it's impossible to win modern army, no matter if the army is not ready and not experienced. Sometimes the technology can replace your experience. So the Palestinians were forced to step back on the territory of Gaza, and Israelis established control, basically blockade all over the territory of Gaza. Currently this territory is completely encircled, and currently the front line goes maybe a little bit to the west, to the right, to the left from the wall that surround Gaza from every single side. So the first phase of operation has ended. The next step is to clear the entire territory from the local groups that still can have possibilities to move along the territory of Israel and to terrorize the people, to kill civilians and so on. And this is going to be the next phase, to clear the territory and to establish 100% control and to capture or to kill every single terrorist, every single soldier of Hamas. After that, the Israelis will, after the blockade, after this, all these situations, they will continue bombing Gaza for the next few days, obviously, and after the next few days, they will be forced to start the ground operation. And then the most important thing is going to start. First of all, a lot of neighbors have already reported and told the Israelis if they start the ground operation, Lebanon, probably Iran, maybe even some forces from Egypt and many other countries will declare war, not just to Israel but also to the United States of America, and they will attack not just the forces on the territory of Israel but every single United States base that located all over the world. And this, of course, not a very good thing, and the Western countries need to be ready for that, because obviously this is going to be happening, and obviously the Israelis don't have any other option, but they need to start this clearing operation. If they will keep everything as is, they will have just one option: to recognize, let's say, Palestine, and to give them give them this liberty or something like this, because there is no other option. And if they want to establish control and to reduce the risk in the future, they need to completely clear this area. But the only possible thing to do this is to launch ground operation, to enter the city, to enter this stone jungle, and of course to have significant losses, but at the end to clear this territory and to be ready to be attacked from the north, west, east, and from every single side. To complete the ground operation as much as successful as possible, the Israelis continue bombing and shelling Gaza with all types of weapons. And of course, these are not accurate strikes. The Israelis attack this territory on ground, just the massive squares, trying to get as much as possible, try to make panic. Of course, the main goal of Israelis is to force civilians to step back. Obviously, this is the main purpose, to make such a heavy pressure of fire with one purpose. And if as soon as civilians leave Gaza, or at least as soon as civilians will accumulate themselves somewhere on the border with Egypt, it will reduce the risk and it will give more possibility. It will make the entire situation more flexible for Israelis, and then it will be much more easy to complete and to implement the ground operation on Gaza. So now this is exactly, and maybe this is the reason why the strikes are so heavy and so terrible, because they need to tell and they need to send a strong message to civilians that there is no place for you civilians, for peaceful people, to stay here. You need to run as far as possible and as fast as possible, because everything will be destroyed. And obviously in a day or two, a lot of civilians will leave this territory. Probably a lot of civilians will stay, those who lost their friends, their parents, their families, their children, their relatives. Of course they will stay to fight, because they have already lost everything and they don't have any other sense to live but to fight against the Israelis, and they will give their life for the battle for Gaza, obviously. Furthermore, the clashes and bombings took place not just in the northern part, all over the entire Gaza was bombed by the Israelis without concentrating, without targeting. Everything was bombed, and probably the Israelis tried to reduce this territory till ruins. But the thing is that the main fortifications and the main strongholds of Hamas are located located not on the surface, obviously. Everything is located on the ground. There are a lot of and very rich underground facilities with supply, with support, with electricity, with generators. Obviously, there are a lot of underground tunnels that connect Egypt with Gaza, so there are no problems to supply this territory because, for example, after the Israelis bombed the Gaza, the Hamas forces went from the underground facilities on the surface and, as an act of revenge, started bombing and attacking the Israelis territory with missiles. Hundreds of missiles were launched in direction of the city by the name of Ashkelon, and those were the strikes in that direction. Not a very big distance, but according to information we have, the Israeli air defense was ready for that wave of attack, and the Israeli sources published the video of work of Iron Shield, and probably as a result of that work a significant number of missiles were shot down. But some sources are saying that currently on the fourth day of clashes, the Israelis are able to shut down just 10 till 15% of Gaza missiles. 75 till 85 missiles are able to get the target, and it's also deals significant damage to Israel's forces. Yet we haven't seen, of course, the FPV drones. At least the number of usage of this type of weapon has been reduced. Probably the number soon will be increased as soon as the Israelis will get very close to the border. So anyway, this is not the end of the conflict. The conflict is going to become more and more heavy and more hot. Furthermore, the Israelis established complete blockade of Gaza, and they reported and they told to Egypt if they send any help and support to Gaza, everything will be destroyed. Of course, not on the territory of Egypt. Everything will be destroyed on the territory of Gaza. And for example, today the sources published the video of bombings on the border, and that was like a signal to Egypt that everything that enters, any help, water, food, medicine, supply, anything that enters Gaza will be destroyed and bombed by the Israel Air Forces. So there are no chances, this area is blocked. But anyway, even when talking about this situation, that support that Egypt sent to Gaza was for people, because one more time, Hamas has significant, very powerful, very rich network of underground facilities. They don't have any problems with support from Egypt, and every bullet, every single liter of fuel they receive from underground. They don't need this on surface communications. They have everything they need. So we expect the upcoming ground operation, and then exactly this situation will tell us whether the Israeli forces are able to can be the modern army, or it's just like nothing, word of nothing, with a lot of technologies and a lot of support from the Western countries, to be precise, from the United States of America. Obviously, the most important updates are also coming that a lot of authorities, lots of leaders of Hamas were killed as a result of strikes. For example, according to information we have today, one of the Hamas authorities, Zakari Abu Mamar, was killed as a result probably of airstrikes. Also, the Israelis managed to discover and to kill another leader, Javad Abu Shamal. So a lot of people, and they try not just to blockade Gaza, but also to headless the entire Hamas group. And of course, it's like the tactic of the United States of America. We saw that in Afghanistan, in fighting with ISIS. So the same doctrine, the same steps, the same way. But the most important is that Hamas is controlled not by the local authorities. Hamas is controlled by Iran. So if you want to cut the Hamas head, you need to do something with Iran, but not with civilians and people who are running from trying to save their lives under the bombardments of Israeli forces. So we'll see what is going to be next. And that's it for this video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.